How is all these black folks in charge of every doggone thing in these communities, and the communities seem to never be able to get any better? They're saying that
Gentrification. Can you say gentrification, boys and girls?
Gentrification.
gentrification, excuse me, that's the word, look for gentrification. Why do you think we're not progressing?
Well, we don't plan for success.
Okay. Okay. I want to welcome everybody to Strategic Resources. I have a special guest today in the show. I have Miss India Lee. Her name is India Pierce Lee. When I first met her, she was a Pierce. I've been waiting to do this show a long time. I had two people when I asked to do the show that I wanted to interview first. I called you and I called Jackie Chisholm. You were the first two people. I said, I'm going to do my show, and these are going to be the two people I'm bringing on first. So I want to welcome India to our show. Now, for you people who don't know who India Lee is the Vice President of Grant Marketing,
Senior Vice President.
Vice President of Programming over at the Cleveland Foundation. I had the pleasure of knowing India now for well over, God, I met India when I was like 16 years old, believe it or not. And I was 16 years old. Her sister moved across the street from me on Kempton. I talk about Kempton. I talk about Glenville a lot in my podcast. And I talk about Saber and Randy a lot in my podcast, even though she won't come on my show. I remember it like it was yesterday. Me, a friend of mine named Patrick Wainfield, and a guy named Roy Stego. We was all sitting on the porch, and we saw this car pull up, and Randy and Saber got out the car and was getting out, and we was like, who the heck is those people? They must be moving in that house. And we checked out Saber, and all of us was like, ooh, look at her. And that was it. From there, everybody was in love with Randy and Saber. They were the younger people on the street. And by them being that, and we were at 16, 17-ish and trying to figure our way out, and they let us hang out with them and grew up with them. And then we had the pleasure of meeting you. I believe you had just came back into town. I'm going to really go back. You had just came back into town, and you were a air traffic controller. People didn't know that. So tell me about that.
Well, at the time, like most people, I've always been one of those people that like to try things, right?
Mhm.
And I started out actually when I was going to Cleveland State and then transferred to Dyke College, but working in Navy finance. And me, I didn't do everything at one time. So I got hired full time. So I started working full time days with Navy finance, going to school full time nights. And a friend told us about taking the air traffic controller test.
Wow.
So that weekend, I went up, grabbed the SF-171, the application, and sent it in and went out to Oberlin and took the test.
Really?
And at the time, they were doing a different program where we would spend a year
Mhm.
in learning the flight service station, the air traffic control tower, and the center.
Hmm.
And they said, you have a choice, Indianapolis or Chicago. And
Wow.
I took Chicago, called my parents and said, I'm leaving.
Wow.
And so I went through the air traffic training, went to Oklahoma City through training, came back to Cleveland and worked and moved to Ypsilanti Landing, Michigan, Willow Run Airport.
Hmm.
And then, the PATCO strike. And I
Okay.
actually was one of the union officials on duty at midnight, the night they called the strike.
Hmm.
And in Michigan, actually, they fired all of us, even on our off day.
Really?
Yeah. So I was a casualty of Patco and Ronald Reagan.
And Ronald Reagan. Yeah, everybody remember they laid all those air traffic control. So did you actually sit up there in the thing and land planes and all
Yeah,
of that?
worked in the tower and
Wow.
so after we went through our trials and
Mhm.
different things, I ended up coming back home
Mhm.
and went into banking at Bustamani's Bank, First Bank National. Could have had an opportunity to work for Dick Celeste. I didn't want to do politics like my sister-in-law.
Right, like us. But you really don't like politics now.
Right. I work with politics.
Right,
but
but
I
you
don't
you don't like politics. No, you don't.
And so, and they said, what you want to do? So I went back to air traffic, a private air traffic control out at County Airport. And then Councilman Tyrone Bolden called me
Yeah.
a few years later
Yeah.
to ask me to come to Mount Pleasant to build new housing. And I said, I know nothing about housing. He said, you'll learn. And I went to Mount Pleasant Now Development Corporation. And that's how I got into community and economic development.
Now, actually, you gave me opportunity to work with you at Mount Pleasant. I was doing a paint program. I was one of your paint inspectors. You hired me one year to go around and do it. And I was talking to some people about that because I remember the crew I was supposed to have been inspecting, they painted somebody's roof. Remember that?
Right.
They painted somebody's roof and you had to put a whole new roof on them people. How I remember that you was so upset about that. It was like you was so pissed off them kids. It was two dudes, and I can remember them like yesterday. They climbed on the roof. I think we know one of them. They climbed on the roof and they painted the roof. They ain't painted a lot. They just put a little spatter on the roof, but you gave those people a brand new roof for that, and I remember that. One of the other things I do remember about Mount Pleasant that I tell people all the time, and I mention to you because people try to take credit, and I'm going to clear this up today. And because if I'm wrong, I was wrong all these years. But I run into many of people who swear up and down that the first modular homes built in Cleveland was built by their organization. But I truly believe you built the very first modular home in Cleveland because I was working for you at the Development Corporation then, and you said, David, watch this. They bringing in this house on a trailer. You going to watch them put this house. And that was the first time. And as a matter of fact, we was tripping because everybody said they was going to staple it together
Right.
once they put it
And
together.
those two houses are still there.
They're still there.
Corner of 140th and Milford.
Sure. Now, is those the first two houses legitimately built?
Legitimately built using the prefabricated houses in the city of Cleveland.
India did build those, and that's what I tell people. That's
And
no.
Now, we were the first to also build the first low-income housing tax credit, single-family scattered site housing
Correct.
in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood. Working at that time with lists with Rob Curry and our CDC, because at the time, Cleveland Housing Network and others were not interested in doing it. So we built the first single-family low-income housing tax credit, 50 of them, in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood.
They weren't interested in doing it back then.
No. And we went out to Medina and some other places where they had done some senior townhouses using the tax credits, but we were the first in Mount Pleasant.
So let's talk about that and the first in Mount Pleasant in doing that. So that type of development wasn't being done in Cleveland at all? Or would you say you were one of the pioneers and helped to establish?
Actually, it wasn't anywhere in Ohio.
Really?
It's first to do that right at that time. Mount Pleasant Homes won, and that's documented.
Wow. And I remember Kingsbury, wasn't that part of yours?
Here, Royal Kingsbury, that was our for sale market rate housing. Yes.
I remember we was putting that together also. And I remember you were very proud of those. And that's when you were just getting going and getting started with development. Left from there and you went to MPI?
I actually went to the city and worked for Mayor White, ran the empowerment zone.
And I did remember that.
From the city, I ran LIST, Northeast Ohio LIST.
I remember you was at where LIST. It's like, exactly.
MPI.
Then MPI.
And then to the foundation.
So what was LIST all about? I remember you was at LIST.
Well, LIST is a national nonprofit like Enterprise Community Partners to rebuild low-income urban communities. And they actually came to Cleveland in 1983 with a grant from the Ford Foundation. And then in 1988, both Enterprise and LIST, which it was unusual to have two national organizations in Cleveland. And Steve Minner at the Cleveland Foundation, along with other funders, started Neighborhood Progress. So we were local intermediary to nationals to really rebuild Cleveland's neighborhoods.
So let's go back to Mount Pleasant because I want to go back to that beginning. What was your biggest accomplishment, you think, when you was there? You know, that you did a lot there, and when you left there, what were you just really like, you know what, I'm really glad I got this off before I left, or, you know, we started this and you know it's going to have last.
What a lot of people don't know, and I started at a community development corporation with no experience.
Correct.
Right? Nothing.
I was there. I saw you.
And I tell people I didn't know anything then. I still don't know a lot. But I think what people don't know, it was the outgrowth of what was called Mount Pleasant Alive. It was a fledgling CDC that at the time the city decided it would no longer fund. And I was hired to do housing. I was not the director.
Really?
But with help from City Hall, Katie Dixon, and people like that, and Gwen Fuller, who was the neighborhood planner, they actually helped me put together the articles of incorporation to start Mount Pleasant Now Development Corporation.
Wow.
And now standing for a neighborhood organization working, which nobody knows that either.
I remember that too. Right?
And we were one of the first 6 groups funded out their neighborhood progress in September of '88 when MPI started. So we were one of the 6 CDCs, which they called the Holy Six at that time,
Okay.
that got funded under Neighborhood Progress. And actually, I learned from the ground up, and I had so many mentors and so many people that helped me learn how to do development, rehab housing. I'll never forget, I thought I was the queen of rehab because Chris Warren was teaching me how to write rehab specs along with Randy
Got
Graddick.
Yes.
Yep. Chris Warren gave me, there was these little HUD key lock boxes.
Right.
And he gave me the key to the HUD lock box. It wasn't a lot of those. I
Mhm.
thought I had hit go.
Oh, yeah.
Because he gave me his
No, it
key.
was gold back then because
Yeah.
everybody didn't have a HUD key.
And Chris gave me his key.
Mhm.
So, and from there, we actually went from a fledgling organization to one with high capacity. And at
Mhm.
that time, you had Huff Area Partners, you had Development,
Right,
and then
right.
Detroit Shoreway were probably the top 4 CDCs at
Mhm.
that time.
Mm. So what made you leave? You was doing such good work there.
Well, we like any place else. Actually, Chris Warren and Mayor White asked me to come to the city, and I didn't just say yes. That took a while, but I made the move to go run the empowerment zone because when Bill Clinton started the empowerment zone,
They put a lot of resources.
a lot
in
of
it.
resources. We were actually a supplemental zone, but for me, it was because it was about the people. It was
Okay.
about the community. It was supposed to be bottoms up.
Okay.
It
Uh-huh.
was supposed to be about community engagement and to work in 4 neighborhoods at that time: Glenville, Fairfax,
Mhm.
Huff, and Midtown. I thought, wow, I can still do the work I love. However, I was naive a little
Mhm,
bit
mhm.
going into politics in the city.
Right, right.
Very naive
That was really
because I'm
politics.
thinking,
Right,
I'm going in here and I'm going to help the people,
right,
right?
right.
And even at that, understanding that neighborhoods is not a cookie cutter approach.
Mhm.
And that even though we were in 4 neighborhoods, they were 4 very different neighborhoods.
Right.
Just, we all wanted the same things, but each neighborhood, even in the same neighborhood, I learned that in Mount Pleasant.
Mhm.
We had a large area in Mount Pleasant. And when I was doing our strategic plan, I realized I had to divide the neighborhood up into 6 different areas because the needs in different parts were very different.
Mhm.
And so we created these citizen advisory committees
Mhm.
for each neighborhood where I was gathering information from the people
Mhm.
and thinking I was going to City Hall and we were going to do what the people wanted.
No, 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 no.
Right. What I also learned very quickly, I have to say this. When I was at City Hall, the person that helped me the most and coached me quietly and guided me was then Councilman Frank Jackson, then Mayor Jackson.
Really?
We know how smooth and
Mhm.
how laid back, don't worry, you're going to get what you need. But he taught me how to calm down
Mhm.
and just do what we have to do. And
That's
we had a
cool.
very good working relationship. And a
Mhm.
lot of people don't know that, but he helped guide our team a lot.
So let's talk about that empowerment zone. Did you think it lived up to what it was supposed to do?
I think we learned a lot from it,
Mhm.
but no, it didn't, because what really frustrates me is that we're working in those same neighborhoods right now. When the foundation, when Ron Richard came, started the Greater University Circle Initiative,
Mhm.
working in those same neighborhoods, plus Buckeye Shaker and East Cleveland. And if you look at the statistics and if you look at all the research, we have the worst of everything still in those neighborhoods.
Mm.
But we have a lot of assets, and
Okay.
that's what don't make sense. There are a lot of assets in these communities.
Mhm.
And so thinking about an asset-based approach with a people-based approach in how we do our work, but it's still hard, right? And now we realize what we've already always known, but now acknowledge is the institutional and structural racism
Mm.
in all these systems that have prevented us from moving the needle in these communities.
How is all these black folks in charge of every doggone thing in these communities, and the communities seem to never be able to get any better? They're saying that we're being a lot of white people.
Gentrification.
Gentrification, excuse me. That's the word I'm looking for, gentrification. They say gentrification is happening in these communities and people are moving in, but the people in the community are like, this is really bad and the area is really bad. I don't get it. Do you think that's really happening, or why do you think we're not progressing?
Well, what I've learned through my 30 plus years in
Mhm.
community and economic development, that we don't plan for success.
Okay.
So when I look at, and comes from, having worked with the clinic and university hospitals and Case Western,
Mhm.
when they master plan, they plan for the next 50 to 100 years.
Okay.
In community development, I learned, several years ago through this process, we plan for the next 3 to 5. That doesn't work.
Mm.
We need to think about our communities, which we do now, and what's going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, if you look at the West Side, everybody sees Detroit Shoreway
Mhm.
and they think it happened overnight. That was a 20, 25-year push.
Mm.
But people don't realize that the West Side Market, Ohio City, that was 20 plus years of work from Community Development Corporation, private investment, banks and others, but people see what it is now.
Mhm.
And we have to have that same mindset as we see some of the East Side neighborhoods, which still need a lot of help, and especially the Southeast Side.
Mhm.
But as we start bringing in, like our foundation is moving here into the Huff Midtown neighborhood.
Correct.
We see this as a 20 to 30-year play, not just the building, how we engage with the community in a way that their voice is at the table and they're helping to design it. So
What community and your experience you think do that the best?
I don't know if anybody does it the best. I think if you talk to people on the West Side in Ohio City, Detroit Shoreway, they're trying to catch up. Right. They learned about when you bring in new investment at the same time. But, we also had a city where we had a lot of vacant properties. Our city had all the worst stats, poorest city in America, all this. And so you had a time when City Hall and others were just glad to get people to come into town. Now we see the private market in certain areas, like here in Midtown, you'll see a lot of that starting to take place where there's going to be a lot more private investment. So how do we get ahead of that? By owning and controlling land where you can also control what goes on. It doesn't change. And I always tell the people, construction costs are what the construction costs are.
Correct.
So when you do development and when people see, even in our neighborhood, let's take Glenville, we got some very beautiful historic houses. And if those houses haven't been kept up, to go in and do a gut rehab, that's not a $50,000 play. You got to go in and if you're going to fix it right. That's 150,000 or more to put in all the systems to fix up a property. And I know some people argue with me about it, but I tell you, what does it take to fix things in your own home? When you go out and get bids, people go out and get people that they know if they have that, they can do the work cheaper. But a lot of us don't have that, right? And then a lot of people do that and they come on the wrong end of the stick
Correct.
instead of getting a qualified contractor. But when you go out and get bids on your own house to get it fixed, it's the same thing. So when people are proposing these big projects, they got to go out and you got to pay for labor. And those are union jobs and different things like that. And the costs are the costs. I didn't realize it costs us the same to do construction here as it does in Chicago. But you have a different market there than we have in Cleveland.
So what about the people who say that you guys building these houses in these communities and we can't afford to buy them? And I think that's the argument.
Right, but you need a lot of subsidy. So unless, government steps in and puts a lot of subsidy, it's hard to do it because you can't build them. I just talked to someone in our neighborhood that somebody was telling them, oh, you could go out and build these new houses now, 3-bedroom, 2-bath for 150,000. Go talk to people building houses now, see what the construction costs now, especially
Oh, it's really not lumber.
with
It's crazy.
COVID.
Yeah.
Costs are just out of the pocket on everything. So I told them, whoever told you that was our line, 10, 15 years ago.
But it's not happening
It's
now.
not happening now.
And that's what I think, most of the argument was in the community. I'm on both sides of that. I'm working with a project now in the Glenville area that in Conwell's ward, and it's going to be a tax credit situation. And in that project, though, you have to do the meeting with the community and the neighbors. They all come out and they just bash and, hey, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, man, it's just a vacant lot right now. It's an old torn down school. There's nothing there. And I hear what you're saying, but you guys just want it to be a vacant lot like that all the time? Or can we? And that's what they say. Oh, it's gentrification. You guys bring it in. I'm like, but somebody has to live here.
Somebody has to live
Somebody has to live here.
And we have to take advantage of the resources while they're here, because if we don't, those vacant schools and lots will continue to be vacant, will continue to bring down the property values of the housing there. People will continue to disinvest. You want a nice neighborhood, and we want amenities, but to do that, you got to get rid of the blight that exists, and that costs money.
It costs money. And what about the attitude? And I know this ain't got nothing to do with it, but there's an attitude.
Oh, yes,
that goes with this, that just like those people, they seniors or people, some of them were seniors, some was just hardworking people who lived in the neighborhood a long time, just there. And sometimes you get immune or just you let the situation around you take over and you be like, that's just the way it is. When it's not just the way it is, things can get better. So how do you change people's mindset to say, look, man, listen, we gotta move people in there. We have to build more expensive house. Not to say that your house, we trying to move you out or make your house more that you can't afford it, but you do want your property values in this community to go up.
Well, some people don't, because that means that they have to pay more taxes.
But and that's their
and
thought.
that's the problem. And so for me, it's like, how do we not just build things, but go ask for, instead of getting mad about the building going in, I know who you're talking about
Right.
because I've talked to the same group.
Mhm.
Do a strategic plan for your 4 or 5 blocks.
Mhm.
Okay, go and ask for the things that's going to uplift your community. Let's get rid of
Mhm.
the vacant lots and the
Mhm.
houses
Mhm.
that are there that can't be saved.
Mhm.
Figure out how we get dollars to repair and, do the necessary repairs on our seniors' houses who can't afford
Mhm.
what it costs
Right.
now to repair those houses,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Can we come up with some kind of planning? What kind of amenities do we put green space and parks,
Mhm.
the playgrounds back for our kids, right?
Mhm.
That they can benefit. Those are the things we should be asking.
Mhm.
What other amenities come with these projects that uplift the rest of the neighborhood at the same time while we're moving new people in?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then, what are the policies we have in place in building and housing and things that we protect our seniors so that
Mhm.
they don't get pushed out?
I was that City Rama, was that part of your thing?
Um,
Now City Rama was
City
actually
Rama goes way back.
it
The
goes with
last City Rama that was done was when I was at Neighborhood Progress down there by St. Luke's.
by
That
St.
was the
Luke's.
last one.
That was because I remember one in Glenville. Then you're right, it traveled.
They did the first one in Huff,
Right. Right.
and then they did Glenville, and
Mm.
then the one there.
Hmm.
And
Eh,
there and
Now
there
that was a situation where you came in and actually went into a community, took several blocks, and actually did something,
right.
and sold houses over there, and did pretty well with that.
Right, and there you have one owner of the land, right?
Mhm.
Neighborhood Progress owned 25 acres there, so
Okay.
and you had all the land that was cleared and utilities in, so you could, but even at that, the market at the time didn't allow the rest of it to continue.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
now they're just now, I mean, that we started, oh gosh, 2004, 2005, and
Wow.
now that area still is just now getting developed.
Wow.
Because you can't get comps, the cost of construction, getting the right developers. We did have
Mm.
one. Unfortunately, they had a developer, Nate Zaremba, that was going
I
to go
remember.
there and he
God.
passed, right?
Wow.
And so, they're just now coming back around to do what they call St. Luke's Point.
Mm. Wow.
But that was 2004, 2005
But that was a good model.
is a good model.
But what about now? You think the housing market, they're saying that this is a good housing market now, the market is doing well.
But now we got inflation and
With
interest rates.
inflation, so it kinda doesn't make any sense. They telling people if you selling your house, it don't make sense to sell it because 'cause you're just gonna overpay somebody else when you go move somewhere else, so sort of not balancing off. So how do the programs you're involved, well, not that you're involved in now because 'cause you're doing something different now. How you think these CDCs and others get into these communities and do it? Because now everything is more expensive, and that means they gotta be doing a lot less with a lot less when they were already doing less with less. So
Right.
how
I
what's
think, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to do these mixed income neighborhoods, right?
Mhm.
So, there's some examples on the west side where some of the CDCs cut deal with the developer
Okay.
that for every X number of market rate houses you build, you put in X number of
Mhm.
lower
Mhm.
income or,
Mhm.
what we're now calling home workers or homes for working class people.
Okay.
And so they're doing a lot of that now. So, looking at a mixed income model as well.
Okay. I wanted to try to get a little bit more into this development thing. That's one of my goals is in life. I've been dibbling, dabbling with it, and I got lucky to be part of a project that's coming up. So hopefully I'll be able to get more into that. So you don't do anything with development anymore.
Well, we do from afar.
Okay.
So out, we still work with Neighborhood Progress. We fund Cleveland Neighborhood Progress to fund the CDCs. We are working with several, I'll say, what I consider 3 big area projects with a lot of partners. So we got the Huff Midtown, and you got Sheila Wright
Right.
and
Uh-huh.
they're doing work there. But then you have, the CMHA with the Woodhill Estates,
Mhm.
which that was a project that I've been pushing Jeff Patterson to do since like 2004 and 5. We did the
Okay.
original master
Okay.
plan for that area, and I'm so happy to see it finally happening. But
Mhm.
it goes beyond just the housing there.
Mhm.
It's also additional housing for sale and market rate, as well as rehab outside the area,
Mhm.
bringing amenities, health and wellness. But that was a community based model with the community's voice instilled in it.
Mm.
And so we have through a foundation, us in St. Luke's, purpose built communities working in Glenville and Buckeye Wood.
Oh,
And we've been doing that for, oh gosh, I think 8 years. I date myself,
okay.
but we became a network member about 3.5 years ago.
Mm,
So we're leveraging that work with all the other work with CMHA and then working in Glenville as well. And then beyond that, on the west side, the Clark Fulton Master Plan Project, we've been involved with that with Metro Health, Metro West, CDC, the city, and others. So we work and that's why I said these are three big areas. And hopefully, I'd like to see some things happen in East Cleveland as
so let me ask you this. Yeah, a whole lot can go on. You could go spend a lifetime
I,
developing in
I
East
have.
Cleveland. Actually, a person like yourself would probably have fun in East Cleveland if they gave you some resources.
Well, I've actually, through all my different jobs, we've tried to do things in East Cleveland around development.
Hmm.
So, I just keep,
It's almost like a blank slate, almost.
yeah.
You get a if they had the resources, they could use someone like you to go in there and really turn that around. They need it. Let me ask you this, as it relates to development and what's going on in the city and what we got going is. Where do you think the city is failing at as a whole? And that's not a slight to nobody in office or anything, just over years of just, and as a result of this, we just haven't been able to make it better in development because we haven't been able.
So let me shift that.
Okay.
I'm an optimistic person.
Okay.
I pray about
I was
everything.
gonna do the good thing too, but I wasn't the bad one.
Well, this will get to that. Even though I think there's been a lot of, good things that have happened, a lot of attempts to move things, I think it's been too siloed and fragmented.
Okay.
And that's
Explain that.
and what I mean is that we have and people accuse the foundation sometimes, yo, you go it alone, that kind of thing. But sometimes you do things because nobody else will. But I think the more we can bring our resources together, we can leverage it so we can maximize the dollars and
Hmm.
um, talent and things that it takes to make these projects move and get people on the same page. And I think we've had that for a long time, but it's been in different things. And we have so many needs, right?
Hmm.
We got education, you have housing, you got health and human services, we have the, pre-K through,
Hmm.
8 and it's just so many things and needs. Is how do we prioritize different?
Okay.
And so I'm optimistic with the changes in leadership across the city, let me be
Hmm.
clear,
Hmm.
in a lot of these organizations and even younger,
Hmm.
that some way collaborations and partnerships will be even stronger, that people will pick those, let's say, 2, 3, 4 priorities and move, because all this stuff takes time.
Hmm.
If we can move the needle in
Okay.
one or two areas, and then you start moving the resources to go with that while you have it, and that's why I'm optimistic.
Mm.
I mean, our schools are actually changing. A lot of people, and you can bring people and talk about that. The data, it's better than what it's portrayed. Is it good? I
Hmm.
mean, where it should be? No.
Hmm.
We have a long way to go, but it is getting better. I think that in some of the neighborhoods, you see blocks in different places where things are starting to change, where you see more investment.
Hmm.
And I think the more we can target investment, so the southeast side is an area that has been sorely
Hmm.
just dismissed.
Hmm.
And I think that the new administration, along with I think philanthropic resources and others, see that and have been seeing it and are ready to do something different.
Yeah, it's like Miles.
Yeah,
Miles is just like it's nothing over there.
right.
It's like it's the last place before you get to Warrensville or before you get to the suburbs. But it's like desolate over there. There's nothing going on over there.
And we need we need something to happen. And it's hard when you don't have, you can't do it alone. That's one thing. You can't do any of this work alone.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to figure out how to work together, and everybody has unlimited, we don't have like unlimited resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to prioritize, and that means some other things won't get done.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to agree on what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes people meet that or against that. But I think if we have government along with corporate, along with philanthropy, I think things will work differently than when, if it's only the corporate sector. And that's the other thing. Our corporate sector pretty much is, you know, I mean, we don't have a lot of corporations
No.
really investing in our city like
Uh,
it should.
do we have enough corporations, or we just don't have enough doing it?
I think we can always use more, but I think the ones that are here that we figure out how to work with them in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
that they see the importance. And I think you start to see that. I mean, downtown is coming back. You start seeing more people
Mm-hmm.
back
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to downtown, into University Circle, different places like that. But we need more critical mass.
Mm-hmm.
But we also need critical mass around transportation and, I mean, if we could toward a better, we have decent transit right now, but it could be better, the north-south connections, right?
Mm, mm,
And getting people to utilize public transit better and then building around that transit where
mhm,
this mayor's talking about this 15-minute city
mhm,
in neighborhoods.
mhm,
That's a great concept. And I think that if we could create that kind of city
mhm,
where everything is fit, and no matter what neighborhood you live in,
mhm.
the amenities and thing are within 15 minutes of where you live, I'm all for it.
You know,
I'm a big champion. So I like to look at the optimistic and take
that's
what
really
we've learned.
optimistic.
I know, but we could take what we've learned. And let me tell you this. One thing I do have, I think I have an issue with
Mhm,
is that we want to be a big time city,
mhm.
but we still got a small town mentality.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
We want to be big time. We want to be this. We want to be that. But we got to get the small mindedness out of it. And we got to be, and yeah, everybody's going to make some mistakes. We're going to have some failures, but it's what you learn from those failures, I think, makes the difference.
No, the only issue I had with this 15-minute thing, I could see it downtown because everything downtown is congested.
But you got it in Ohio City. You got
And
it
in Ohio City, is
Way.
in
You
those
got it in
places.
Fremont.
But though, and
You got it in Lakewood.
it was
You
about
have
to,
it in some. So why not? Why not in Glenville?
well, this is what
Why not in
I'm about to lead to
Montclair?
that. I was about
Okay.
to lead to
Why
that.
not?
And here's why. And I'm about to lead to that because my question to you, my next question was, we was talking about development and
Right.
developing the community. Let's talk about some of the amenities in the community that's so hard to get to spur good development. Biggest is grocery stores.
Right.
And being able to bring in commercial developers and people that want to come into the community to help build out the community. So what do you think are, in your experiences and in the future, what do you say for that? Because the food desert is real,
It's
you
real.
know, and I live in Cleveland Heights, and in Cleveland Heights, right where I live, I can count 7 grocery stores and 15 minutes away from everything.
That's right.
Okay. But if I go in Glenville just to visit you, or even my old house in Glenville, there's no grocery stores. There's nothing. And that's
right.
why I
And
said
then
the
when we
15-minute
talk about the development and the housing, but what is the housing stock, right?
Right.
They have building code enforcement in Cleveland Heights, right? They
Mhm,
have point of sale inspections.
Mhm.
So you can't let properties, and we got a lot of missing teeth along East
Mhm.
105th
Mhm.
and along St. Clair and along on Superior, So as we start filling in
Mhm.
those commercial
You
corridors,
think that brings
then you start bringing back because
Mhm.
you're not going to do business where you don't have any traffic.
correct.
And then you don't have any walkable traffic, right?
But
People
who's
can't
going to
walk.
start? Don't we got to get
Well,
somebody
no,
to
it has to, but you
Yeah.
got, Fairfax Renaissance Development.
Mhm.
For years, they've been doing this new economy neighborhood. Now that's starting to take place. 400 units of housing. They now have a Myers going in at,
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I
going
heard
in.
that.
So it
Now,
takes
so the
time.
Myers is probably the beginning
Right.
because that's the first of a big food grocery chain coming into, I would call, the hood or into the city,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Okay. Because we haven't had one of those in a while,
No,
right?
we haven't had that, but it is, they're going to follow those concentric circles
Mhm.
and where they see dollars coming in.
Mhm.
And so you have to, you have to keep building it. And again, we have this Thrive East 105 that
Mhm.
Mayor Jackson and his team put in
Mhm.
place, and the goal was to not only just redo the physical infrastructure with the
Mhm.
streets and curbs,
Mhm.
but how do you attract businesses and economic development back along 105 to 93rd going
Mhm.
out, that will bring those businesses back and creating access to capital for small businesses.
Mm.
That's another area that a lot of people are trying to figure out. They do some of it, but how do we, do it authentically?
Mhm.
Where we're bringing real capital and access to capital for small minority owned businesses and then help them move into these neighborhoods. But it's got to be critical mass where they're making money.
Mm.
I mean, I think Glen Village is an example. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
COVID hit right when
Mhm.
they opened,
Mhm.
but that's another example of trying to create that critical mass to bring businesses in so then they can grow and hopefully go into the neighborhood and you keep repeating that.
Mm.
And so there are examples of that going on, but it's, it takes
It's
time and
hard.
money.
That,
Yeah.
that's the hardest part is that commercial piece. So maybe you think it, and maybe I don't know, you could tell me. Is there a CDC that's out here that's only geared towards just going after commercial development? I know you have other that does, residential and other things, but is
Also
there
do
something?
multifaceted now.
Uh,
Way back when I started, you actually did organizations that were hub development, that all
mhm,
they did was commercial development, and then
mhm,
you had the housing. But over time, they brought the two together because to build the neighborhood, you needed to have a comprehensive approach.
mhm,
But, should we start thinking about, bringing in developers that are interested in redeveloping our communities? Because I tell you, I mean, I still live there like
mhm,
a lot of us, right?
mhm, mhm.
There is a lot of people that want the same things in our neighborhood. And a lot of us have stayed because we're still hopeful
Mhm.
and we see the value of where we live, closest to the lake, closest to all the cultural amenities, right? I am not, my parents told us a long time ago, don't ever sell out on your neighborhood.
Right, right.
And we've continued to live there, right?
Mhm,
Because I know eventually it'll change,
mhm,
but we also have to be part of that change,
mhm.
you know?
Well, you at least you've been working at it. Nobody can honestly say you ain't
Yeah.
been working at it to be part of that change and get things going. So let's move on to this. You got done with the housing, you moved forward, and we can't end the show without because in between there you met my buddy Peter Lee.
Yeah.
And now Peter Lee, he was a fire chief, wasn't he?
Yeah, he retired from from Hopkins and Burke Lakefront as the chief of the fire station.
Yeah,
So he gave the city 32 and a half years in the
wow.
fire department. I think when he initially became a supervisor,
Mhm.
he was one of the youngest supervisors at 28 years old.
Wow.
And
Well,
so when he retired, he was the chief.
chief out at the airport.
Yeah, and he's been retired now 20 years.
Oh, wow. It's
Yeah,
been
I
that
know, it's been
long.
that long.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I like P. Everybody like P. He real quiet guy.
He always supported me and
Oh, well, yeah, that
all
was
my
saying that's your
craziness
brother. That's your
and
boy.
stands by me. That's my rock.
That's your guy. He's been with you the whole time.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about it. We're gonna move into the foundation, but you had got sick. Was that last year or the year
In
before?
2019, yeah, I got
Yeah.
diagnosed with breast cancer
Mm-hmm.
in February 11th of 2019. I went through surgery, chemo,
Mm-hmm.
and radiation. And, it was only by the grace of God, everybody was having a hard time. I got this.
Oh yeah.
God got me.
Oh yeah. You know
You
what?
know how I was.
Hey,
I stayed
yeah.
uplifted the whole time,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
had a lot of prayers,
Mm-hmm.
support. This community supported me. Of course, my family,
Oh yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
I mean, the foundation, I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't work for a better place, the support that I had,
Mm-hmm.
but, it never stopped me from,
No, I mean, one thing was not ever worried about you with that. I mean, there are some people. I mean, I'm be honest with you, I wasn't even worried about it. When they said you were sick, it was like, oh, she's gonna be fine, and it was sort of that way. And
yeah,
and I know that all of that is tough, what you go through and everything else, and it's a lot. But everybody knew you was gonna be fine, and that's because you're a good person. See, there are some people who you have to worry about. Oh, they gonna be okay. you know, but it was like, oh, India's gonna be fine. She's gonna get through it. You're a trooper. You'll get through it.
well, see, like
And
I tell people, when I got the diagnosis, yeah, I told everybody, but not one day did I ask why.
mm-mm,
Not one day did I cry about my situation.
really,
Not one time did I worry about it.
mm,
Not once through that whole thing. And I took my last because I had to stay on this one treatment for a
mm,
year
hmm
on March 13th, 2020, right before everything shut down.
wow,
But every week when we went to chemo on Fridays,
hmm
me and Saber called it our Friday lunch date.
mm,
And we ordered from Wolfgang Puck, and I was able to during my chemo treatment
really,
every Friday.
because some
We
people
would
can
look
do
at the
that.
menu and like, what we gonna eat tomorrow?
Really.
Yeah.
So how many treatments did you have to go
I
through?
went through, I had chemo from March all the way through June every week. And then I had radiation for weeks. And then, I did the surgery initially. And even at that, 2 days after my surgery,
Hmm
everybody was calling, oh, and I had for Pete's birthday, we always, go to Florida. So I was going to cancel. And the doctor said, no, if you feel fine. I went to 2 days after my surgery. I was in,
Really?
and it was good because it was warm there. I was able to get up and walk. And, so it,
hmm
I think helped me even heal even faster.
You know what? I did remember them saying you went to Florida.
Yeah, they were everybody was tripping, but I was gonna cancel it, and then, I thought about it. I would have not gotten any rest if I stayed here 'cause so many people calling and coming by the house, and they're like, "Get some rest," but I had
Hmm
people sitting there
hmm
2 and 3 hours at a time, and I was exhausted just from that.
Right.
But again, I never worried about it, just knew it was gonna be okay. That like I always say something wrong with me. I don't even know, remember, well, somebody said, "Oh, you're gonna get weak at some point, and you can always call me if you want to." I'm like, "You don't know me."
Mm.
Okay, because I believe in my faith and I believe in my God,
Right,
okay?
right.
And no matter what the circumstance, remember, I was completely bald head.
Mhm,
I lost all my hair,
mhm, mhm.
you know?
But it always grow back so
Yeah,
much nicer. Everybody who had chemo like that, if it grows back,
yeah,
because some cases it doesn't grow
right.
back. It
But I didn't worry about it. I
yeah.
went on with my hair and
Mhm,
when it started coming back,
mhm,
but I didn't care about any of that, right? And I thought the one thing I did at the foundation, I'd get up and talk about it in front of everybody. And I had people come to me after that, talking, like that, and not only there, but other people like, boy, your strength. That I posted on Facebook,
mhm,
helping other people learn how to pray to go through whatever they were going,
mm.
helping people get through things. So I felt like God was using me and my voice to help somebody else.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, I wasn't, and I'm not saying that to be anything other than the fact that I knew you were going to be all right because you were just a good person, and people who do good things happen to them, and that was just something that happened that you had to get over and got over it. Most people didn't know you were an athlete too, so that didn't help. Angie used to play tennis. She was a very good tennis player.
Tennis and
And
bowling
bowling
and golf.
and
Yeah.
golf. Yeah, you did a lot of that. You gonna pick up any of those again or no?
Oh, I'm into painting now. The kids got me. I started this paint by numbers thing with
Really?
them, and I'm in the process of completing my 15th painting.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. 15 of 'em.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's what you did with your spare time.
That's what I'm doing now. I just started.
You just started that.
Yeah, and that's something to do with Dawson and Dylan, my two great nieces that
Yes.
stay with me all the time.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I'm always trying to find things to indulge them. And now they're teasing me. They're like, Auntie, all you care about is painting.
That's
But
good.
it's so relaxing,
Mhm.
and I get the really intricate ones, so
Mhm.
16 by 20. So
We gonna have to do something. I think the biggest challenge in this city is going to be this commercial development for the inner city. I think that guys do residential well. It's this commercial that's
but you need the residential to attract businesses to come in because they got to
yeah,
know they have a market.
gotta have a mark.
Got to have a market. And we can't put the same things in every neighborhood.
No.
That's the other thing. You can't, and no more dollar
I
stores.
was about to say
We need
you don't want no more dollar
we want
stores.
quality retail.
You does.
I think dollar stores serve a purpose, but you don't need one every 2 blocks.
What about
You-
your East Side Market? Oh yeah, you gotta say that. We cut everything here, so don't worry about it. This ain't live. None of this
Yeah.
live. We record. The East Side Market itself, it's needed, as we know, but it just seemed like it can't never seem to
Yeah, we need a different model for that.
just a brand new
You
different
need a
model.
different model for the East Side
You
market.
don't think the West Side model works for the East Side?
Well, as you know, that's going through change now.
I mean, do the whole change with it all.
Yeah, and in the city, investment there is different from the East Side market when
Mhm.
they opened it up. So I think that, when they first opened, people were excited, but I kind of knew that it wasn't going to work.
The new when they
Yeah,
reopened, yeah.
right, because people were complaining about the price points.
Mhm.
And recently, back in November or so, we were just going around looking at different markets and neighborhood,
Mhm.
and they had crab legs in there back in, I think, November. I got pictures of it, selling them for 69.99 a pound, king crab. And
At the East Side Market?
at the East Side Market, I got pictures, and I'm like, now come on.
Wow.
I can go down to Classic Seafood at that time, right? And
Mhm.
get them for,
Right.
king crab legs for that. And so that's the kind of thing where we aren't exploiting, allowing those kind of things that come in that exploit the people in the neighborhood, especially right across the street from senior housing.
Right. Right.
We can't have markets and convenience stores and stuff that are exploiting our people. And that's what we got to stop. And so what are the policies around that? And again, how do you control it?
Exactly. All right, so let's go trouble ourselves on into this Cleveland Foundation, man. What you do over there? Right, first for our audience of folks who don't know, because there are people who act like they know, but they really don't know. What is the Cleveland Foundation? What does the Cleveland Foundation?
So the Cleveland Foundation is the oldest community foundation. It's 108 years old. And it was started by Frederick Harris Goff, who used to be the head of Cleveland Trust Bank.
Hmm.
And so it was a way to create philanthropy that give back to the community for the voice of the people.
Now, did it have something to do with the NAACP? Or it opened around the same time as NAACP?
No, we started, as a community, as a foundation, it's all philanthropy.
Okay,
And so they raise money from private donors
got it. Okay,
and we give those resources to nonprofit
maybe that's what
organizations
I'm thinking
in
about.
Lake Geauga and Cuyahoga County.
Really? I didn't know that. In other places other than Cleveland, say Lake, Geauga, and Cuyahoga County. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just called the Cleveland Foundation.
Yeah. Well, that's when it started. It was Cleveland Foundation, but over 108 years it evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a 15-member board. Please say that April 1st, Connie Hill Johnson became our board
Yes.
chair, first African American woman.
Yes, we're gonna have her on the show. We're gonna at least reach out and try to
We'll
get her on.
reach out.
Yeah.
And Carrie Carpenter from Huntington Bank is the vice chair. And we just brought on 4 new board members. Judge Ron Adrian,
Okay.
Arparna Bowl, who formerly was with University Hospital and now
Okay.
works with the Biden administration.
Okay.
And Carrie Jarrett, CEO of Gojo,
Okay.
and Stuart Cole. So those are our 4 new board members along with the others that are there.
Excellent. Excellent. And so you guys, what kind of activities you guys, or what kind of stuff you guys do there? I know you do
So we have a
grants.
department that
Everybody knows that.
raises money.
Right.
And then we have our finance department where they invest the dollars.
Mhm.
And then our department and program and grants management, that's where we look at the grant proposals that come in and we give the dollars out.
So all right. So now I think I get it. I think I just
we
come
give the grant. So, if you write a grant for you with a nonprofit organization, you write a grant, we review it and we make a decision. Is this a go or no go?
Mhm.
And then have you send a full application and then our staff reviews that. And then we then rewrite those applications to our board who then votes on,
So the scholarships and the school stuff that fell under you.
Yeah.
That was just one of the.
And scholarships is an area we've worked with. Yeah.
'Cause I know that one very well because you guys helped me out. My son was able to get a scholarship when he was going to Morehouse Foundation. He got it for 2.5 years. Then he didn't do it. I was like, why? It was easy money. Why you didn't do it? You guys every year, all he had to do was maintain the grade point average, and that was a good one that he had. And you introduced me to a lady. I'll never forget her, Miss Marvelous, because I could
Baker.
I did not believe that lady's name was
Marvelous Ray
Marvelous.
Baker.
And she was very marvelous too. She was very, very, very nice. I remember you introduced me, you said, well, you need to talk to her and see if she can help you out. And I talked to her and she made sure all of that went well for me and did well. In fact, Kennedy actually went through it also and she got it as well. And didn't do it the next year neither. I don't know what is up with them. They say we'll get it 1 year and say, that's it. And charge me. I end up paying for it. But anyway, Marvelous Baker, she was there and she does those scholarships for kids.
She retired us a few years ago. So after 27 years,
Wow.
she retired.
She was with the foundation for
Yeah.
27 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. She helped a lot of kids, I bet.
Did she spent a lot of time. That was, you talk about passion.
Oh yeah.
She was very passionate. She worked with, all the different scholarship and
Yes.
donors and different things around that.
Yeah.
And so now we've shifted a lot of the scholarships, will be going to college now, and then we still have some of the
Okay.
individual ones as well. But there was a lot to maintain there.
Oh, I ain't replace her.
No,
No, she was good. I mean, no, she was very, very, because like I say, she made me feel as if we knew each other for years. And I would call her and she took care of Anthony and Kennedy for the most part and made sure they both got what they needed and took care of that. And she was a very, very, very nice lady, and I
we have
just said,
skills
man,
that have staff. Jane Marquez that
Okay.
does that, and staff internally that look at it. And so,
no, I liked her a lot. And I know that was one of the things you do. And what else you guys do there?
oh my gosh. So I have the largest department. We have about, I think 28 staff. And then we have fellows, national urban fellows. We have public service fellows in our department, but we focus on arts and culture, economic development, education, environment, neighborhoods, as well as youth and health and human services.
Aren't you getting a new president?
Oh, well, we have Ron Richard as our current president.
Okay.
And so, he'll probably be looking at next 3 to 5 years retiring at some
Okay. All right. No, I know it must be another organization I was thinking about.
Oh, that was Gun Foundation.
Oh, that was a good.
Yeah, they
Right.
just
Anthony
David
Richardson.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson. He just started there. So we're looking forward to working with Gun.
I reached out to him. We're doing an interview too.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he's a good guy. He's coming on the talk. Much about him. So, what is some of the things you most impressive? Now, you done been a lot and worked for all these organizations. So, what is it about the foundation, other than the staff? I know your staff is very good because, like I said, through your process, I watched how they all came around you. So, we know you got an awesome staff,
I love them.
and I know you're good there. So, outside of your staff, what is it about the foundation you like that makes it fulfilling for you now that you're working for that organization?
Well, it'll be 16 years in July since I've been there. I started out as the program director for neighborhoods, housing, and community development.
Mm-hmm.
And then in January of 17, Bob Eckert, who was our executive vice president, retired after 34 and a half years.
Mm.
So I've been over the department for the last 5.
Okay.
So in July, it'll be 16 years. But for me, what has kept me there is having one autonomy to do the kind of work on the ground, an organization that cares about the people in this community as well as the staff, but the ability to also try different things, even if it doesn't work, and take risks like the Evergreen
Mm.
co-ops that we started in Newbridge, Cleveland Center for Arts and Technology.
Okay.
We founded all of those type of things, and they were all risky, right? There were no guarantees. And so working in a place that's, ready to shift. And now with our strategic direction we've been working on the last 2 years, really focused around racial equity and inclusion, trying to look at how do we build and share power with the community. That's not easy, but have some examples of where that's working well. How we create pathways for individuals and fostering economic opportunity for the residents of our 3-county footprint. And so, you know, because we've been doing this work a long time, and I have to do a shout out.
Mhm.
My Lillian Curry,
Mhm.
who got promoted last year to COO and executive vice president, who's driving our strategic plan, driving our office move, along with Roseanne Potter. But Lillian and I, as they know, we have worked together side by side on a lot of this. Even in her work, she was at a planner at city planning and ran Cleveland Public Art a long time ago. And for us to see this work culminate in all those years about how to do things right, right, or how to get people involved in the community and engage them, where we are actually listening to the community and really trying to have their voice and work done. An example with our office building, the East 66, there's a Transportation for the Communities initiative the city started in 2012. And that's been reinvigorated, but we were working with nonprofit organizations to work with a youth council and resident council who actually designed that. And now we have a request into the federal government for a $15 million raise grant to see that come to fruition to redo East 66 from Euclid to Superior.
Wow.
And that's with community input. And so a lot of examples where the community is involved in the planning and development. We also created the Huff Community Land Trust, which is resident led. They just got their 501(c)(3), so we're supporting that so they can own and have the land and actually, have it developed and control what goes on.
So in that land trust model, that was a situation where the city owned the land itself, right? Or the
City of private developer.
and
This is private develop. Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
And they brought the community in to
Well, we work with Burlington and Associates, who actually was started by Bernie Sanders many years ago. They're a
Really?
national land trust. And this is not your typical housing land trust. This
Okay.
is looking at a commercial land trust where they're buying the land and holding it, and then they can either do a land lease and sell it and and put that money back into the community for bigger things. And under Councilman Bashir Jones, we had the first deals with
Right.
Signet.
I mean, he
Yeah.
mentioned
And that, we were doing the land trust. So he talked to them and the developer said, okay, so that was the first one. But now the land trust, is doing some other work. We've given them significant dollars to go out and buy the land.
Mhm. So in your 66 mile, a couple questions in that. Let me make sure. A couple of questions on that is one, you mentioned the fact that you guys picked 66 is where you move in the building, 60.
Yeah, that's being built right now.
Yeah. So what made you guys pick that as a location? You guys could have went anywhere. Y'all the foundation. Surely y'all could have went anywhere. And now I found out, hell, you didn't even have to be in Cleveland. You could have been in Geauga Lake, it sounds like. So what made you pick that area?
Well, actually, the initial, we looked at over 40 sites, mostly downtown University Circle.
Okay.
This was not the first decision
Mhm.
to go there. But from years of work, the Greater University Circle initiative, working with Case the Clinic, University Hospital, and other nonprofits since 2005, investing in the health tech corridor, along with Midtown and at the time BioE and Jumpstart and others.
Mhm.
Actually, that combination of work from 2005 to then, you start seeing development. And when that's we initially we didn't know where in Midtown. Midtown came up, people were like, there's nothing there. Why would you go there?
Mhm.
But Dave's had started building in the
Mhm.
Link 59 and University Hospitals, which was part of a collaborative,
Mhm.
work with the city and other people to make that come to fruition. And I say it's the culmination of all those years of work
Mhm.
that created the space for us.
Mm.
So we actually had an initial deal downtown that fell apart
Okay.
and we had to start over.
Wow.
And so it was a big lift, but our board, to our credit of the board and our CEO and our former board chair, Sally Greaves, we finally got there. And the decision was, yes, if we can make something happen, it can't just be a building. And so now you have the Midtown Innovation District
Mhm.
that we're partnering with Jumpstart and
Mhm.
Greater Cleveland Partnership and other to develop this area,
Mhm.
beyond just our building.
That's what I was thinking of. Cleveland Partnership. They have a new CEO.
Yeah, yes.
That's what
Beju Shaw.
Beju Shaw. That's what I said.
Yeah,
It's
and
partnership I was
Beju
thinking
is a
about.
great partner.
Exactly.
Beju worked at the foundation as our senior fellow for economic development for a couple of years before
Mhm.
going there, along with other consulting he was doing. So again, we have these partnerships in place with the right people. I think that's really going, to grow. And Beju would be a great person to also bring.
Now, when do you think you guys will have that finished from Euclid to? I
Well,
love to
we
see
wait to
that.
see if we get the money from
I
the
hope
federal
y'all get
government.
that. Ought to be huge. Yeah, right. I got you.
And
That's
then,
huge.
yeah, that would be great. But I mean, when you look at it, you got the new library going in, you have Fatima Center there. That's been an anchor in this community under
Mhm.
the leadership of
Mhm.
Legime Ray.
Mhm.
You have the
Mhm.
baseball hall museum.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
have Sheila Wright's development
Mhm.
going on. So the development is happening.
Okay.
So now we need for the rest of it to come along to build that up
Mhm.
and not just that area, looking from 55th all the way over.
Mhm.
How do you rebuild that area in a way that benefits the community?
Any real other plans that the foundation is working on that you want to let us in on that nobody else know? You got something secret y'all got big
We
like
don't
that?
have to be secrets, but we're trying to just figure out how to be the best partners and
Mhm.
and work with the community in a different way than we have historically.
Excellent. Well, Miss Lee, I really appreciate you coming on my show today. We got a chance to know you a little bit better as the years go on and as new projects and things come about. This is a place where I definitely want you to be able to come in and sit down and talk to us a little bit about those things and anything else that you think the community needs to know. So I definitely want to do that. But before I go, I want you to look at this camera right there. That camera is designed just for Miss You, India, and you get to tell the people a little bit about the foundation or something you want them to know and how they can get in contact with anything that they would need to know from the foundation.
Well, I like to say the Cleveland Foundation, again, is the community's foundation, and we're here to serve the community. And the foundation is, you can contact me at ilee at cleve, CLEBEFDN.org or 216
Yeah, we cut.
861 3810.
That's good. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave all her contact information and how you can get more information in our comments of our on the website. So when you go on to our link, you hit the comments down there, you'll be able to get her information about where you can reach more information about Miss Lee, more information about the foundation and all of that stuff. You got something else you want to say?
Yeah. So we also launched, how could I forget this,
Mhm.
the Cleveland Black Futures Fund last year.
Oh, let's talk about
And
that.
so on April 30th, the African American and Philanthropy Summit
Mhm.
held, and the grantees will be announced at that.
Now, what is that?
So we launched last year the Black Futures Fund to serve that gives grants to Black and Black-led serving organizations, including
Mm,
Afro Latinos.
mm,
And one of the things last year we got overwhelmed because we had over 220 applications,
mm.
Black-led and Black-serving organizations from
Really?
Cleveland. And the second round is going out now. But
How you get qualified for that? Now that's hot.
so,
Well, what makes you qualify for an organization for that?
well, again, being a Black led and Black serving, so you may not have, and you can use a fiscal sponsor
Okay.
if you don't have your 501c3,
Mm.
but the next round will be announced probably sometime after the summer.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
but
they
that's
applying now for it?
yeah. That now the decisions have been made. They're
Oh,
the applications. So
when is the next round for you to apply? If you
that I have to
yeah,
get.
let us.
Yeah,
So when she get that information, we'll have you come back and you let us know, and we'll get that out to people. That's interesting. I'd like to know, and if you guys want, let us know. We'd like to be part of that announcement. Maybe we can try to
make
get
sure
that
that
out there.
happens.
Yeah, we'd love to let everybody know who got that, and that's good things. So people like to hear about how they can advance themselves in the business, and that's why we're here. So we appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.